With that breaking news, a shooting investigation in Walton County. The Walton County Sheriff tells us deputies responded to a call of a person shot at a home on Rosebud Road near Esco Drive, south of Loganville. We have a reporter on the way to that scene and will bring you any new developments during this newscast.
Happening now, one of the busiest interchanges in all of Georgia is getting a major facelift.
Within the last 2 hours, the governor and other state leaders broke ground on upgrades to Georgia 400 and I-285. And Channel 2's Mike Pachinik is live in Sandy Springs with a look at the project and what it'll mean for commuters. Mike.
Fred, get this. The GDOT commissioner told us today that commuters up here spend about 8 hours of their life every year just sitting in traffic at the Georgia 400-285 interchange, which is just on the other side of those trees. So with a shovel of dirt, a plan to lessen that commute got underway today. GDOT officials say the $800 million project will uncork the congestion at the state's busiest interchange. We spoke to the GDOT commissioner about what it will do.
It unties the traffic by moving the entrances and exits to the freeway along 400 and 285 to different locations and consolidates them. Instead of traffic entering and leaving all in the similar places they do now, they get spread out.
Work will begin almost immediately with some minor tweaks along 400 and 285, but the GDOT commissioner says the real construction will not start until sometime in February of 2017, with the project wrapping up in 2020. What commuters think about this project starting today on Channel 2 Action News at 4. Live in Sandy Springs, Mike Pachinik, Channel 2 Action News.
New developments in the murder of an Atlanta man inside his home. Within the last 90 minutes, the medical examiner identified that victim as 28-year-old Carl Cosby Jr. Police responded to a call about shots fired at this house on Vanderbilt Court Wednesday night. They found Cosby's body in the basement. Detectives are still looking for clues to the murder.
New developments. We've learned the name of the worker who was killed in a massive pipeline explosion in Alabama. And 48-year-old Anthony Lee of Willingham of Heflin, Alabama, died in Monday's explosion. He was part of a 9-person crew making repairs to the pipeline. Today, crews are still waiting for the fire to burn itself out, now 3 days since that blast. Representatives from the Alpharetta-based Colonial Pipeline say they're optimistic they can get the main pipeline running again by Saturday. We're seeing sporadic gas outages for some grades across metro Atlanta. There was no mid and premium grades at this quick trip on Lower Roswell Road, and new numbers today from AAA show the average price per gallon of gas in Metro Atlanta is $2.29. That's up another 5 cents from yesterday.
Happening now, jurors in the Ross Harris murder trial in Brunswick have been listening to an expert in memory and attention. He's trying to explain why Harris might have forgotten about his child the day Cooper Harris died. Channel 2's Ross Cabot is live outside the Glynn County Courthouse with what the expert said about what could have led up to the tragedy. Ross?
That's a key issue that many people have wondered in this case. How could Ross Harris, if it was indeed a tragic accident, simply forgotten about his son just inches behind him in that SUV? And that's what this psychology professor has been testifying about this morning. He is an expert on something called prospective memory, which is essentially your future actions based on your memory. It's very complicated, and it took up all morning, the testimony. But essentially, he said because Harris was under a great deal of stress at a time and varying from his habits, that could have been a reason, that could have been an explanation why Ross Harris forgot about his son that day. He mentioned that besides those factors, the route that Harris drove from the Chick-fil-A that morning wasn't his normal habit.
Cooper did go with him to Chick-fil-A, but not as much as Ross went to Chick-fil-A on his own, and certainly never when Ross was going to Publix for lunch. So you have a disproportionate amount of times. His habit would be naturally to go to the treehouse in this case.
You would agree that if it were proven the defendant intended to kill this child, the stuff that you told the jury really doesn't have anything to do with it, correct?
No, it wouldn't have anything to do with it.
That's somewhat the bottom line under cross-examination, that if the prosecution proved this was a case of murder, these would really come into play at all. The jurors were very attentive during the scientific explanations. We believe this is one of the last the defense witnesses. They have another expert that's prepared to testify. We'll see if he's on the stand when they continue after lunch today. We are live outside the courthouse. Ross Cabot, Channel 2 Action News.
Ross, thank you. And information on Georgia's drought, and a cool down is on the way.
Meteorologist Karen Minton has that timeline in Severe Weather Center 2. Karen.
Yeah, the front is on the way. We are not seeing much rain with it as it is approaching this state, and currently temperatures are warming up. We are in the upper 70s right now, 78 degrees here in Atlanta, 73 in Gainesville, still in the 60s across the North Georgia mountains. As we look a little bit into the northern suburbs, you can see generally those mid-70s, but the line of the rain really falls apart. The front back here all the way back toward Texas is continuing to slide this way, but it is just going to have a really tough time making its way here. And so we are going to end up seeing maybe just a couple of spots with a few isolated sprinkles coming up later on this evening. So your forecast through this afternoon, temperatures in those mid to upper 70s. Breaking through to the lower 80s as we head through this afternoon.
Your voice, your vote, and 5 days left to go, and the presidential candidates are pushing their closing arguments in key battleground states. Both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are crisscrossing the country. Political surrogates are also helping each out.
If you don't vote, then you've done the work of those who would suppress your vote.
He's going to do well here because he wants to infuse common sense back into the equation.
Later today in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump's wife, Melania, will give her first speech of the general election campaign. The Libertarian candidate for president took aim at Hillary Clinton during a campaign rally in Atlanta on Wednesday. Gary Johnson accused Clinton of what he called crony capitalism. He told supporters Clinton is guilty of pay for play.
Happening now, both sides plan to rest their case in the trial of a 15-year-old boy charged with murder. The county is pushing lawyers to get to closing arguments before the end of the day. Today, the jury is getting a look at a videotaped interview with a suspect that police view as a confession. Prosecutors say then 14-year-old Reginald Lofton and another man shot Shane Vardador during a robbery charge. Wednesday, his family members tried to pin the crime on someone else. Latest water testing for lead in DeKalb County schools show none of the results came back above acceptable levels. The district tested 4 schools: Sagamore Hills, Hawthorne, Harry Reynolds, and Brockett Elementary. Out of 16 water sources tested, all came back below the EPA action standard levels. To date, 781 sources in 47 schools have been tested. 32 sources, or 4%, tested at or above acceptable levels.
Police have charged 2 men for a deadly home invasion in DeKalb County. 21-year-old Tyler Brown and 26-year-old Benjamin Florence are both facing felony murder charges. Investigators say the homeowner shot a third suspect when they forced their way into a Clarkston townhome last month.
New at noon, police say thieves used a stolen car to go on joyrides for weeks. The key clue recovered that could help track them down.
Plus, a new look at low lake levels drying up from the drought, and the concern watering restrictions are not enough.
And the search for an attacker who robbed a pregnant teenager.
The young guys caught me on the stairs, jacked me up,
The changes
robbed me.
her family wants in place to prevent another crime.